What up, y'all? Um, it's been a while. I got a lot of videos to make. I got even ones that I filmed, but I haven't uploaded them. I've just kind of been busy during the summer. But in this video, I want to talk about something that's really important uh, for dating, for women, and it's something I've really recognized in myself. And I hope that I can make it relatable to you guys. Um, but that's that, like, I'm gonna try to start off by explaining a certain type of way. It's basically like, a lot of people say, like, if you're a man, you gotta be focused on your passions and enjoying your own life, right? But there's actually, if you want women to be attracted to you, you want them to believe that you have a life of your own, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This common advice that we hear. But I feel like there's actually a way that that actually comes to your detriment, and this is particularly with people who are neurodivergent. I believe that I have ADHD and some other neurodivergence that I guess I could talk about later. But for me, I have so many passions, and I actually have such a joy for life in many ways. Because when you're neurodivergent, when you have ADHD, you get bored a lot, so you go out and you search for these ways to be entertained. You end up passionate about so many things, or you end up extremely passionate about certain things, right? Like you end up super passionate about anime, or for me, I like drinking coffee, trying coffee shops. I can play video games. I will, skateboard. I will do, traveling. I like going on long walks. I like so many things. And I realized that this is actually hurting my dating, right? Like, my epiphany is that, way back in the day, right? And it's not necessarily relevant now. It's kind of relevant. But you have to realize at the start of humanity, right? A man had to be a killer, right? Like, essentially, you had to protect your family. And if you are so basically distracted by the joys of life, a woman considers you defenseless because you're not focused on the potential danger. Like, if you think about, there, like, I've heard people make analogies in dating about, like, yellow labs or like a Doberman, right? Like, yellow labs are very, like, happy, but they're, like, unfocused, and they're not looking for the predator. They don't care who you are. If you're a giant predator, like, the yellow lab will just come up and say, "Hi, nice to meet you, I'm your friend." Like, essentially, it can't talk, but it's not scared of anything, or it's not, almost, it just wants to be friends with everybody, and is so focused on the joy of life. And I used to think, like, okay, this is great, women will be happy. They'll be like, oh, life is depressing, I finally found a man that has a joy of life, finds a joy in life. And that is true. But you have to understand that these things should be released slowly, right? So, I don't want to, it's not that I want to act unhappy around a woman, but I realize that I can't be, I have to be more grounded about it, right? So when a woman says, what do you like to do for fun? I might just say, oh, I like watching YouTube videos and I like going for long walks, right? Because I realize a lot of dudes that have boy or girlfriends, they're so boring. And the thing is that a lot of them have absolutely they don't even have take any sort of initiative to correct themselves being bored. Like, a lot of dudes, like, it ends at them watching TV shows. Like, they'll be like, I like TV shows, and that's it, and listening to music. I promise you, like, a lot of people are like, out here thinking, oh, I gotta live this awesome lifestyle. I promise you, ask damn near any kid these days, or girl, their only hobby is watching movies and listening to music. Damn near 90%. They'll say watching movies, listening to music, sleeping. Those are the 3 hobbies that people will mention, right? And I realized, like, I always thought, like yeah, it's good to show people that you have a joy for life, and it's not even just about hobbies. It's about showing the woman that you're 50% a golden retriever, like happy to meet everybody, and just, you know, you're just excited about life, right? And then the other 50% is that you have to be almost present. You have to be present, because when you're constantly all over the place, you know, oh wow, I'm so happy about this, oh, I'm so excited, oh, blah blah blah. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I know that everybody can make this relatable to their life. The woman just thinks, well, where does the hobbies end and the present mindedness start? Because if you're constantly just joyful about life, where does the part come in where you will recognize a predator that comes into your guys' relationship? You know what I'm saying? Because I know that in modern day there's not usually a predator. It's very unlikely that someone's just going to try to bust through your house and try to kill you or your family. But I think human beings are wired for that, right? So the sad thing is that the way that women, I think, see men that have a joy for life is that they see them as immature, right? And it's not even just about hobbies. You know, I coined this new term. I call it zoom, right? Zoom in, zoom out. And that's essentially the idea that when you're doing, let's say, an activity with a woman, let's say you go out to play ping pong like I did with a woman like a month ago, that's your time to be zoomed out, right? Where you're just focusing on the ping pong, you're just having fun. It's not about nothing else. But the second the ping pong ends or the activity ends, you have to focus in on her. You zoom in on her. Because if you're still zoomed out when you go to talk to her after the ping pong or whatever activity you're doing, and you start talking about ping pong and you're talking about fucking, excuse my language, you're talking about, you know, all this stuff that you're passionate about, but you're not zoomed in on her, you're not paying attention to her facial expression, you're not paying attention to the fact that, okay, now she wants to connect with you. She doesn't want to talk about the ping pong no more or the activity that you guys were doing. She wants you to look in her eyes and think and talk about her, right? I think this is actually why a lot of dudes get friend zoned. They don't get friend zoned because they're too nice. That's not a problem. They get friend zoned because of where their focus is. There's a time to zoom out and there's a time to zoom in, right? Like, you know, let's say you go to the zoo with a woman. There's a time to look at the animals and there's a time to look at her, right? And that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a homie who has like hecka bad ADHD, right? And this is really where I kind of started thinking about this. Where like he's so into Disney, he really loves Disney. You know, he's a grown man, straight. I mean, he's actually pretty good dude. And I mean, yeah, I know he's into Disney. That sounds kind of gay, but or whatever. But yeah, he's really into Disney, loves Disney movies. But the mother chucker struggles with Zoom, as far as I understand. This is a new term. I coined it here. Zoom in, zoom out. He's talking about the Disney with the girls, you know, and sometimes the girls actually like Disney. He meets girls he works in Tokyo Disney, so he meets girls that like Disney, or he lives in Tokyo and goes to Disneyland a lot. So he'll meet girls who like Disney, but this mother chucker doesn't know when it's time to zoom in. as far as I understand, when it's time to focus in on her, right? So your focus is the problem. I feel like that's a lot of time when dudes get friend zoned because they don't know when it's time to zoom in. Sometimes you're gonna be looking around in what's around you, and other times you gotta focus in on her, right? Like if you're on the date and she looks you intently in the eyes and smiles, but you're still so zoomed out that you keep focusing on what's in your peripheral. Oh, look at the little child. Oh, look at the, oh, the sky is blue. Oh, the blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it's not your peripheral physically. Maybe you're still so focused on things unrelated to her. Like, when you zoom in on the girl, you got to talk about dating. Like, when it's time to focus in on her, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, so like I'm going like with my parents, like we're gonna go river rafting, like in, we're gonna go to New York City. Oh, have you ever, been to traveled to there? Oh wow. Now when it's time to zoom in, at some point after you guys have, bantered and chatted and maybe focused on the environment, oh, this beer is good, blah, blah, blah. At some point, you gotta focus in on her. So, what are you looking for in a partner? Oh, what do you like? Oh, what makes you who you are, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a time to zoom in and a time to zoom out. And that's the problem, going back to what I was talking about, people who have a joy for life, they don't understand when it's time to actually just focus on the objective. Well, there's a few different ways of looking at this. So there's a time when you're up in your head. This is when you're focused on your passions. Oh my gosh, this is my vision. And then the next step of zooming in would be to focus on the objective environment. Are there any predators around? Right? This is when you stop thinking about your hobby, stop thinking about your joys. And then the next step, where you're even more zoomed in, is to look her in her eyes, or maybe if you struggle with eye contact, look at her face or forehead or whatever, and focus as much as you can. And that's when you ask about her, right? Her particularly. What does she want related to dating, right? And if you be effing up this different stages of zoom that I call them, girls don't respect you. You know what I'm saying? They don't respect that. They don't. They think that you're lost. They think that you're a child. Right? Like, it's hard. I mean, that's what I think. Like, there's just different times, like, and you have to understand it. Like, you have to understand when it's time to focus on different things. So, like, I'm going to recap. There's a time to focus on your fantasies. These are the things that you want to do in your life. Let's say you're with her and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to, I don't know, you're talking about all your hobbies, or like the things that you're passionate about and your visions and your joy for life, right? And then the next, and when you're in that mindset, you're not going to be that present on the environment, right? The next step is to be present on the environment. What's going on around you, right? And then the next step after that is focusing on her particularly, right? And those things come in different steps and waves. Like, you don't necessarily want to, go up to a woman for the first time and be looking at her dead in the eyes and like, all right, so what are you looking for in a partner? You don't want to do that at first. At first, when you approach a woman, you're in the second stage of Zoom. Oh yeah, wow, how's the day going? Oh, it's good weather. You're focusing on the environment. Oh wow, there's like oh, look at that kid, he just kicked the ball and he scored the goal. Oh, you're you're focusing on the environment, that's kind of how you make small talk. You know, you don't want to go up and start asking a woman right away a bunch of personal stuff. But then when you go on a date with her, at some point, you got to really focus on her. You know, what does she and you mean? Like, how are you guys connected, and what is the purpose of you guys even meeting, right? Because if you're sitting there just talking about random stuff, and maybe she's even going along with it, where you're like, oh yeah, I like camping, and she's like, oh yeah, I like camping too. Well, there's never really a part where you zoom in on the fact that she might be your dating partner. Because I could sit in a dang hotel lobby and talk with some elderly woman about how I love camping, right? So there's nothing that differentiates. So when you're on a date with a woman you like, you gotta go to the third step of zoom, which means that you gotta zoom in and focus on her, and ask something that you would not ask to an old lady in a hotel lobby or on a bench or in a park. You gotta ask her, what are you looking for in a man? Oh, really? Oh, I might be that. Oh, wow, I like that your answer because X. You know, you gotta actually zoom in on her, right? And this is the problem. Like, you just have to understand. I feel like, I could be wrong, I don't know, maybe this is all a theory, but I think I'm right. You gotta understand that a woman is constantly trying to figure out, are you present in this moment in the right type of way? And there's different ways to be present. Like, there's certain moments where you don't want to be zoomed in on her. If you're in, let's say it's a fun time, let's say you're playing volleyball at the beach, you don't want to look over at the woman and be like, you know, between the serves and being like, you know, so what type of man are you looking for? That's not the time. That's the time to be focused on the environment. Y'all are playing volleyball. It's time to play volleyball. It's time to focus on the activity. But you got to understand, okay, then when she, you know, goes to sit on the log by the beach after the game of volleyball, and you go and sit, and maybe you're drinking a glass of wine or whatever, now that might be your time to zoom in. Now it's time to focus on her. So if you don't understand this, and you gotta constantly know the context to jump in, jump out, zoom in, zoom out, then you're not, the woman will consider that you are defenseless, because a person's focus is what makes them have the ability to defend the family, right? And this is the same if you watch an animal. It's the same. It's the same way. Like, watch a dog, I mean, obviously not the golden retriever, but or let's say you watch a wolf, right? Look up different photos of wolves. You'll see there's some photos where their eyes go tunnel vision, and you can tell by looking in their eyes that they're looking at the predator. They're focused on one particular thing. But you got to do that in the right context. If you're focused on one particular thing, like in the wrong context, like maybe she wants to have a personal conversation with you, but you're intently focused on making sure that, you know, that you order the right food at the restaurant. See, that's another problem. If you go to a restaurant with a woman and you become intently focused on choosing the right food on the menu at the right price, and you're going to be discouraged if the food is wrong, then you focused wrong. I mean, as far as how women think, when you go on the date, if you want to get the food right, check the menu on Google beforehand. But otherwise, you don't want to be sitting there intently focused on the food that you're going to order, because she's going to consider that you're zoomed in on the wrong thing. Your focus is on the wrong thing, because the focus has to be more on her, right? I mean, it's not that this is that big of a deal. It's just something to think about. right? Like, you don't want to be there like, dang, maybe I ordered the wrong food, you know, maybe that was too expensive, even though it's only $10 or €10 or whatever more expensive than you wanted to order. Now you're all focused on that. It don't matter. Like, let's say you go out on a date with, like, or not, you go out to eat by yourself. Okay, ask how much guacamole costs, right? But I mean, yeah, some women might find it endearing if you're cheap, right? But you could, if you're out by yourself, you might ask, oh, how much is that extra sauce? How much is that extra bacon, that extra beef patty? But when you're with a date, you don't, like I'm saying, you don't want to be zooming in on the wrong things. So you want to consider, don't ask, okay, how much does that extra bacon cost? How much does that extra French fries cost? Maybe just buy it and just take the damage, Go work some more hours. Ask your manager for more hours if you don't like how much that date costed, okay? But don't zoom in too much on that, right? And yeah, I don't know. And it even comes with little things like talking to the waitress. Like, you don't want to get too far into talking to the waiter about their life, And I've even had situations where, like, I've been on a date with a woman and, like, a homeless guy will start talking to us, and I'm like, I'll entertain it for like a little bit, and of course, yeah, it could add something fun to your date, but you don't want to entertain that for too long, because again, the woman's gonna think that you're focused on the wrong thing, right? I don't know. It's kind of complicated. Also, your standards for your own skill has to go down too. Like, let's say that you go kick a soccer ball with a woman, right? Don't be sitting there mad because you're not kicking the soccer ball as good as you usually can. It doesn't matter, bro. If the woman ends up thinking you suck at soccer, who cares? 99% of people probably suck at soccer. Who cares if she thinks you're not good? Do not sit there and focus on, oh, I didn't kick the soccer ball correctly while I'm on the date. Who gives an F? You're focused on the wrong thing, bro. Alright. Yeah, that's hard to explain, but I think this video may have been one of the most important videos for myself, I think. Like, literally. Like, and it don't get me wrong, like, people who have a joy for life and whose focus doesn't exactly work how women like, it's endearing, and to an extent, like I Show Speed, the streamer I Show Speed is kind of like that. He doesn't really focus. Like, I don't know how to explain it, like, he's kind of all over the place, like when he was asking out Amy, his girlfriend, the Korean girl. I think he called her Flamey Amy. They called her Flamey Amy or whatever. Like, when he went to confess, he's kind of all over the place. He's like, I will go to Taiwan for you. I will go to Vietnamese. He called it Vietnamese. I think he called it Vietnam. Like, the dude was all over the place. It's like, why would she even be in Vietnam? But when she's Korean. But I don't know. I mean, it's endearing. Don't get me wrong. Like, to have a focus that's all over the place. I think girls can like it to some extent, but it's just something to think about. And if you have ADHD, I really recommend thinking about it. And it's not that you can't show a woman that your life is all over the place. It's just, let it come out slowly. Like, at first, you just let it come out slowly, one thing at a time, right? If you tell a woman, okay, I like soccer, and then maybe a date later, okay, I like watching anime, I like this. Just keep it slow and one thing at a time, so the woman thinks that your brain is not overloaded. If a woman ever thinks that your brain is overloaded with activities, she's going to consider you emotionally unavailable. which is why women will turn down men who are still focused on their ex, right? I'm pretty sure they will consider them emotionally unavailable. So if your focus is all over the place, a woman will consider that you are emotionally unavailable and cannot take care of her needs. Alright, this video is getting long, but I believe it was really important. Take care, y'all. Peace.